morning, folks. Glorious, glorious day, isn't it? It's nice and sunny here. It's been pretty nice. It's been a little warmer than it normally is, I guess they're saying in the weather, but I mean, it's gonna get up to almost 88 today, and normally I guess it's only supposed to get up around 74, but it's been in the 80s for a week or two now. It's like it skipped spring around here. It just blew right into summer from jacket weather. It's pretty crazy. But I had an idea for a question I wanted to pose to y'all this morning. I kind of generated this when I was thinking about some stuff over the weekend and different things that I did over the weekend with my cousin. We went to Resell Electronics and looked around, and I had recommended a couple of titles to him, and he kind of checked it out. He's got a PS3, and he was looking at some games, and he actually recommended a game to me that I was a little hesitant, but the price was a little low, and it's just because I'm not really into the genre that this game normally is heavy in. And he said, nah, this one's different. So I was like, okay. So I went and picked it up. I'm going to hold it back for a little pickups vid I'm going to do. But it got me to thinking, because I remember over the years, I didn't have a lot of games. And I actually didn't have an allowance. I didn't get an allowance as a kid. So the only way I really got money was I collected aluminum cans. Well, it didn't matter. It didn't hurt that my mom and my stepdad both drank a lot of beer, so there was a lot of cans around. I also would go just collect cans. I would walk down the road and have a garbage sack and just find cans and collect cans and stuff. And I would take those to one of these automated things. It was called Coin Bank. And you could just go up there and hit the button, and you dump the cans in, and once it got to a pound or whatever, it would spit out like 45 cents or something. And you would have thought it was hilarious. When I was a kid, I'd have like 2 big full garbage bags of cans, and I'm riding on my bicycle holding one on each side of the handlebars, riding up the road to go dump these in this coin bank up in this parking lot of this grocery store, which at the time was called Food Barn. I don't know if Food Barn still exists, but it was called Food Barn, and they went out of business quite a while ago around here. And actually where that is now is where the family store is, where the family store thrift store is that I've shown you a million times. That's where the Food Barn used to be, and the parking lot there had the coin bank thing in it, and I would go up there and dump my cans in. And so the big build up here in this story is I didn't have a lot of money to buy games, and I barely had money to rent them. I mean, with the cans and stuff. I did eventually start mowing lawns. I did mow lawns too, but in the winter time and stuff, you're not really mowing lawns, and I wasn't gonna go shovel driveways for money. I hated shoveling my own driveway. There was no way I was gonna shovel, a couple. But to mow a yard, I mean, that was a little different. It was hot, but it was easier to mow the yard than it is to shovel a freaking driveway. So, I would rent games here and there. I remember it was like I believe it or not, I think it was a 3-day, 2-night rental, which means if you got it on Monday afternoon, you had to bring it back by closed Wednesday at this place. And I believe that they were $2, from what I remember, to rent the game for the 3 days was $2.31 or 13 cents. I'm pretty sure that was the number. It was like $2.13 or 31 cents, one of the two. I'm starting to think I might be numbers dyslexic, where you flip things, because I'm not horrible at math, but I tend to transpose numbers in my head. when I think about things sometimes, and it's just like I'm wondering if there's a little something in my brain that catches, or flips things, and maybe it's out of my control, so I can blame it instead of blaming my bad math skills. So the whole build up to the build up is, I had I had less games than my friends. I really didn't have a lot of money to rent things. My mom didn't really. Occasionally, rarely would they give me rent me a video game on the weekend. They would rent movies and stuff because everybody watched the movies, but but the video games was kind of just for me. And so, like I said, my mom really didn't want to spend money on that. So, if I wanted to rent a game, I had to come up with the money to rent it. So, it's just the way it was. And that's fine. So in doing so, what ended up happening is, over the years, is I did a lot of game swapping with friends, and occasionally just a rare guy you just barely, maybe was an acquaintance from school or something, and he said he might have a game, or you said you had a game, and you're like, oh, well, let's trade, over the weekend or something, And I didn't have any problem trading or swapping games with people, because it was the only way I was going to experience playing more games, because I didn't have the money to buy them myself. And so, but I got burned a couple times loaning games. I did eventually get them back, but it was like a big deal. And one of them revolves around my cousin Joe. But the one that really sticks in my mind is the guy up the street that was my locker partner and best friend for my junior high, at least 7th grade for sure. He was my best friend and locker partner. We had like 3 or 4 classes together. But he's the guy that ended up failing 7th grade, so he got held back. So that year that he was my locker partner, I guess he was a real idiot and didn't do anything, so he failed. Good guy, but just not, not smart. As far as that goes, to let yourself fail to the point where you're gonna, be held back. I was like, yeah. But he had games too, and I really was, a little more hesitant to loan them to him, because I think I discussed it at one point. He wasn't the cleanest fella, and I've been in his house, and it wasn't very clean either. And his mother was a bigger woman. I don't know if she had medical issues or whether she was just big, but they didn't keep their house very tidy. And so I was a little hesitant, thinking that he's not going to take good care of it, because he doesn't take good care of himself or his room or anything, But there was one time where, and this is what's funny, I didn't actually loan him the game. What had happened was I had traded games with my friend Kevin for something else. I don't remember what. It was a Nintendo game, though. And I'd loaned him my Ninja Gaiden game, the very first Ninja Gaiden, and he had it. Well, what happened was he rented Ultima Exodus, and I told you we got really into that game for a while, and we were going to play it. It was Friday night, so I was going to stay the night at his house that night, and I was riding my bike over from my house to his house, and I passed right by Don's house. And I think he was outside shooting baskets or something, and he said, hey, I stopped and said, hey, and bullshit away for a minute. And he's like, hey, Kevin loaned me your Ninja Gaiden game, because he said you all would probably be playing Ultima. Is that cool? And I was like, yeah. And I still had one of Kevin's games at this point, in trade. So I was like, yeah, that's cool, And, so we played Ultimate Exodus, had a good old time, and I kind of just spaced it off. But after about a week, a few days or a week goes by, I go and I'm asking Don, I'm like, can I get that game back for me? And he goes, well, here's the deal, you know, and anytime anybody starts a conversation with, here's the deal, you know, it's not good. He's like, I went over to my sister's house over the weekend. Well, his sister was like in her 20s or something, and he was, you know, 14. And evidently they had a Nintendo, so he took my game over there and some other games and left it over there when he left. And I was like, okay, well, the next time you go over there, get it back from him or whatever. And I think eventually, you know, a few more days went by. Eventually, I got bored or whatever. I borrowed from Kevin and gave it back to him. And I think Kevin was even like, oh, you can take something else. And I think I did borrow something else because he had about 40 games and I had about 8, you know. So it was like, okay. And but it took months. I mean, literally months for him to get this game back. It's like he didn't go over to his sister's again for like 2 months, and then they couldn't find it over there, and then it was like 3 or 4 months before I got it back. And when I did finally get it back, part of the label was boogered. I mean, it wasn't like peeling up, but it's like it was somebody had scratched it against something or whatever. It had like an indentation scratch in it, and I was like, ah, shit. You know, so I was like, well, lesson learned there. Don't loan Don anything. And a similar situation happened when I loaned a game to my cousin Joe. I think I loaned him Metroid, I'm pretty sure, and he loaned me Bionic Commando for the Nintendo. But we didn't live close to each other, so I knew he was going to have it for a while, like a month or, you know, so it was okay. But the next time I came out to Joe's house, I was like, I was like, I'd like to get my game back for him. And he's like, well, I don't think he said, here's the deal. But he goes, well, I loaned it to so-and-so to borrow Zelda 2, which he had Zelda 2, and I had played it while I was over there, but I didn't know that's what he had done, was loan my game to someone else to borrow Zelda 2. And it was like a big deal because he was, whoever he loaned it to, like, went to visit his family somewhere else or was gone for the weekend, and I was only out there for the weekend, then I wasn't going to be out there for another month. And, you know, it's just like, I think eventually they got a hold of him, and we went over there and swapped the games back, and I got my game back. And I kind of remember my Aunt Becky, which is my Joe's mom, saying, don't ever do that again, loan out, you know, somebody else's game, because it was like a big hassle. And I mean, but that game was still, you know, it wasn't like messed up or anything, not like the one with Don. So I mean, I never had a problem loaning things to Joe, and that's the deal. I was going to say, over the weekend, I was going to loan him a couple cartridge games, and, you know, he was looking at my PS3 games, and I would have loaned him any of them that he wanted to borrow, but I don't see him that often, so he probably would have had them, you know, 4 to 6 months or something, you know, and it's like, that's fine, but, as I've gotten older, I've got so much that it doesn't bother me. But when I was a kid and just had like a little bitty, you know, bit of games, every game counted, you know. And you would get bored of your games quick because they weren't that long. So, you know, you just kind of coveted your collection a little more because it's a little harder to come by maybe. But over the years, I've loaned movies to friends, different things, and I've gotten them back, and sometimes they're damaged, not severely damaged, but you can tell they just didn't take real ginger care of it and things like that. And, you know, it's kind of put me off wanting to loan stuff out to just any average Joe. Not my cousin Joe, the average person, because I'm always worried that it's going to come back a little messed up, you know, maybe not unplayable or you know, unwatchable or anything because it's scratched up or something, but that maybe it's just, you know, not as good of care as you would have taken of it yourself. Which I have no problem, like I said, with my cousin Joe, I know he'll take care of it, and it's no big deal. It's just that I know he's going to have it for a while, so it's not a problem. And I ended up giving him a soft-modded Xbox that had Nintendo, you know, emulator and ROMs on it, so he didn't end up borrowing those cartridges, which was fine. But I would have loaned them to him, no big deal. And, well, it depends. Like, if he wanted to borrow my Mega Man cartridge and I only have one of them, you know, I'm kind of like, I don't know, dude. You want to borrow my Mega Man Anniversary Collection PS2 disc? You know? But, yeah, so my question to you all is, do you loan stuff to family and friends? Do you swap games with people or movies or whatever? Or do you loan them out? Or do you worry about it getting messed up? Or do you covet your things and not want other people to, you know, to borrow them? Or do you just not care? I'm kind of, it depends on the person, you know, as to whether I'm going to loan it to somebody or not. And that's basically the deciding factor. And there's not that many people in my life that want to borrow things from me anymore, so it's not a big deal. Like, I loaned my Westworld Season 1 Blu-ray to my uncle because he hadn't watched I hadn't started watching the series yet, and I know he'll take care of it, so it's no big deal. So anyway, that was kind of my question. Are you paranoid that your stuff's going to get damaged? Because I am a little bit still, even when I loan stuff to my uncle. I'm just like, is he going to come back? Okay. I didn't like give him all the inserts and the chapter list and everything with the DVDs. I just gave him the case with the Blu-rays in it, because I was like, the more shit I give him, the more shit that could get fucked up. Oh, I got some cussing in at the end of the video. Nice. So, anyway, I'm going to sign off. That's just a quick question for y'all, and we'll see you next vid. All right, bye.